ओम सर्वधर्मस्थापकस्त्वं सर्वधर्मस्वरूपकः आचार्याणां महाचार्यो रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. We are studying Sri Ramakrishna, the Great Master, fifth part, the Master in Divine Mood and Narendranath, and we are in the 10th chapter. The heading is the Festival at Panihati, and Saradananda Swami has explained what is that festival up to para 5. Now para 6. The Master's desire to go and witness that festival. The Master had, we have mentioned elsewhere, joined that festival many times before. One of the descriptions we got that Mathur Babu had accompanied him incognito as a bodyguard. So there we had read that. He says, joined that festival many times before. But owing to various reasons, he had not done so for a few years since his devotees, educated in the Western ways, came to him. So, with the Western educated young people, he had not gone there. He expressed the desire of going and witnessing the festival this year together with his devotees and said to us, a fair of bliss, a veritable mart of the name of Hari, assembles there on that day. You young Bengal, that is, Thakur is to speak some English words, within that is there, young Bengal. You young Bengal have never seen such a thing. Let us go and witness it. Although a party of devotees like Ramachandra and others became very happy at the proposal, Vaishnavas, some of them thought of the pain in his throat and tried to dissuade him. In order to satisfy them, he said, I will take here a little food early and return after staying there an hour or two. That will not do much harm. The pain in the throat might increase if I have much of ecstasy, but I will be careful to keep it in check. All objections were thrown to the winds at those words of his, and the devotees began to arrange for his trip to Panihati. A doubt came suddenly to my mind that whatever Thakur said had to come true. Then why this thing did not come true, that will come back in an hour or two? So the mission of his life contained that, what happened there. That is the only answer I am getting. The preparations on the day of the festival before starting for Panihati. It was the 13th day of the bright fortnight, the day of the Panihati festival. Previously the month is mentioned, so here not necessary. About 25 devotees in 2 boats came to Dakshineshwar at 9 a.m. So he is going with a big party. Some came there on foot. Some came by boat, plus some came by foot. A separate boat hired for the master was seen tied at the ghat. A few women devotees had come very early in the morning. They joined the Holy Mother in arranging a meal for the master and the devotees. All took their food and were ready to start by 10 a.m. Why the Holy Mother did not accompany the party? When the master had taken his meal, the Holy Mother sent word to him through a woman devotee asking him if she too might go. The master said to the devotee, "You all are coming, I see," to the lady devotee. "Let her come if she likes." When the words were thus reported to her, the Holy Mother said, "Many people are going with him, and there will also be a very big crowd. It will be very difficult for me to get down from the boat and witness the festival. I will not go." The Holy Mother gave up the idea of going, fed the 2 or 3 women devotees who had decided to go, and asked them to go in the same boat with the master. What they saw on reaching the place of the festival. Many people were seen to have assembled round the old people tree on the bank of the Ganga when the party reached Paniyati at about 12 noon. So 2 hours about it took by boat to go there. The Vaishnava devotees were enjoying the bliss of Sankirtan in many places. But although they did so, many of them did not seem to have actually lost themselves in the singing of the name of the Divine Lord. It was everywhere a sort of lifeless affair. Both before and after arriving at Paniyati, Narendranath, Balaram, Girish Chandra, Ramchandra, Mahendranath, and other principal devotees earnestly and repeatedly requested the master not to mix with any kirtan party and get inebriated. For if he did so, his ecstasy would be inevitable, and the pain in his throat would increase thereby. Mani Sen's house. There was a devotee known to master. The master got down from the boat and went direct to the house of Mani Sen. Happy at his coming, all the household of Mani Babu bowed to him and took him to the parlor and seated him there. It was a room well furnished in the English fashion, with tables, chairs, sofas, carpets, etc. After only 10 or 15 minutes rest there, he got up with all others to pay obeisance to the Lord Sri Radhakanta in the temple of that family. His temple. The temple was situated very near the parlor. We came direct through the side door to the music hall adjoining the temple. Because the Jataran and other things are said, it's called music hall. Generally, it is called Nat Mandir, the hall attached to the main Garbhagruha. Music hall adjoining the temple, and we are blessed to see the pair of images of Radha and Krishna. Blessed. The images were beautiful. Gazing on the images for a while, the master made salutations to them in a divine semi-conscious mood. So already something started. Coming 5 or 6 steps down from the music hall, one reaches the quadrangular temple courtyard and then music room, with suites of rooms on all the 4 sides. The gate is so situated that one sees the images as soon as one enters the courtyard of the temple. When the master was making salutations, a kirtan party entered the courtyard through that gate and commenced singing. It appeared that each party that came to the fair started singing kirtan in the temple courtyard first and then went to the bank of the Ganga and enjoyed the chanting of the Lord's name. A tall, fat, middle-aged man of fair complexion with the sacred thread and a tuft of hair on his head, his body adorned with sandal paste, marks of the sacred wheel, etc., that sacred wheel is marked on the Vaishnavas. Came to the courtyard then, counting beads in a small bag, that is the fashion, with an upper garment hanging from his shoulder and a white Rallies 49 cloth without colored border. That was the style of the people there. This Rallies is a company and the Rallies 49 is a fine cloth. Cloth without colored border, plain cloth. Dhoti, washed clean, put on in a very tidy manner, and having a bunch of coins in a fold of that cloth at the waist. He seemed at the very first sight to be a tramp of a Goswami, not a real Goswami. Goswami Punga, tramp of a Goswami, means appear to be a Goswami. At the very first sight, to be a tramp of the Goswami who had come out fully dressed in the fair to make a little money. That is why there is some money in the cart. So seeing that, people will give more. Playing on the faith of others. Showing himself as a big Goswami, joining the Kirtan, they will pay him money. In order to excite the Kirtan party and probably to show himself off to the newcomers as a great devotee, he came and immediately joined the party and began to roar, dance, and gesticulate as if he were in a trance. As if the master danced during Bhava Samadhi. Now that excited the master. The master stood on one side of the temple after making salutations, smiling to see the Goswami feigning ecstasy and the orderly disposition of his dress and ornaments. He said to Narendra and other devotees beside him in a low voice, "Mark the hypocrisy." There was seen a gentle smile on the lips of everyone at that merry remark of his, and all were free from anxiety to think that he had kept himself under control without experiencing any spiritual emotion. But the next moment, before the devotees had any idea of how and when of the matter, the master, in the twinkling of an eye, had come down in one bound to the middle of the Kirtan party and gone into ecstasy, losing all consciousness. So, seeing that imitating thing, he entered the real thing. The devotees then hurried down from the music hall and stood round him. He sometimes gained partial normal consciousness and danced with the stride of a lion, and sometimes lost outward awareness and stood still. Dancing under the influence of spiritual feelings, he was now proceeding, now receding with a rapid step to the timing of the music. He seemed like a fish swimming about in great delight in a sea of bliss. Each movement of his limbs clearly indicated it, but it is impossible to give expression to the wonderful manifestation of that fully natural and unrestrained power of bliss, where beauty and tenderness had blended together in a sweet harmony. Beauty and tenderness? No, 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 no. Unrestrained power is given. Achha, achha. To the wonderful manifestation of that fully natural and unrestrained power of bliss, where beauty and tenderness had blended together in a sweet harmony. The Bengali says, अदृष्टपूर्वक कोमलता और माधुर्य मिश्रित उद्दाम उल्लासमय शक्ति प्रकाश उपस्थित करिलो. So the translation has missed some point. No. कोमलता और माधुर्य मिश्रित उद्दाम उल्लासमय शक्ति प्रकाश. Neither harmony and all that. No. Let us translate it. How that fully वर्णना करा असंभव. Each movement of his limbs clearly indicated it, but it is impossible to give expression to the wonderful manifestation. You see, beauty and tenderness are blended together is normal. That unrestrained power is blended with beauty and tenderness. That is the idea. The idea is that one side beauty and tenderness is there, and the other side unrestrained power of bliss is there. Uddam is unrestricted. Ullasamaya, it is that bliss. Shakti. Keeping this as it is, the blending is to the wonderful manifestation of that fully natural and unrestrained power of bliss, harmonized with or blended with beauty and tenderness. That is the thing. This power blended with beauty and tenderness in a sweet harmony. Okay. So beauty and tenderness are in sweet harmony always, but with that power has been mixed. Power of bliss had been blended in a sweet harmony with beauty and tenderness. That is the translation. Fully natural and unrestrained power of bliss blended with beauty and tenderness in a sweet harmony. So this blended should come in between. Had blended with beauty and tenderness together in a sweet harmony. Now it's all right. We have witnessed many beautiful dances full of gesture by both male and female dancers, but never did we have a glimpse of that happy synthesis of power and beauty. That is made clear here. रुद्र मधुर सौंदर्य फुटिया फुटितो तार आंशिक छायापात होई सकले आमदिगर नयन गोचर होय नाही. But never did we have a glimpse of that happy synthesis. रुद्र मधुर सौंदर्य. Now, a hyphen has to be used here. Instead of saying synthesis of power and beauty, all right, this is all right, not bad. As we did in the unrestrained and yet perfectly balanced dance of the master. Unrestrained, but balanced. when he lost himself in the divine moods of spiritual feelings. When his body, overflowing with the intense joy of divine feelings, swayed to and fro in quick steps, one seriously wondered whether it was made of any solid physical substance at all. So that body had become so supple while moving. One felt as if waves, mountain high, rose in a sea of bliss and were going forward, carrying everything before them, and would merge that very moment, liquid in liquid, and vanish out of sight. So there is an ocean, and the wave has arisen. That wave will carry everybody and merge back in the ocean. That was the feeling. So it is just wave of that water, bliss water, not solid like other bodies. Liquid in liquid. No one had to explain how great a difference there existed between the genuine and the counterfeit. The Kirtan party did not turn their eye to the Goswami anymore, but surrounded the master and sang with zeal and happiness multiplied 100-fold. So everybody understood, and ignoring that person, he was trying to impress them, but they ignored him and came round the master. On the way to Raghava Pandit's house. So Raghunath Das is different. This is Raghava Pandit. About half an hour elapsed this way. Half an hour went on. When seeing the master in a somewhat normal consciousness, the devotees tried to take him away from the midst of the Kirtan party. All should, it was decided, return to the boats after paying their homage to the pair of images and the Shaligrama which Pandit Raghava, a companion of the late Lord Sri Chaitanya, had daily worshipped in his house, situated little more than a mile from that place. So one has to visit that temple and then go back. The master consented and started with the devotees from Manisen's temple, but the Kirtan party did not desist from following him. They began coming behind, singing the name of God with great fervor. The master went forward a few steps only when he stood motionless in ecstasy. When he regained partial consciousness, the devotees requested him to walk on. He took 3 or 4 steps and was in ecstasy once more. As this happened over and over again, the devotees were compelled to proceed very slowly. The wonderful beauty of the master in Bhava Samadhi. We do not remember to have ever seen the divine effulgent beauty which we saw that day in the person of the master in ecstasy. So the form changes, the height changes, the solidity of the body changes. So we say he has assumed a human body, but the body is not human. Something like human is that body, Avatara's body. It is not in human power to describe that wonderful beauty of the divine person. We never imagined before that such a change could come on a man's body in the twinkling of an eye, under the influence of spiritual feelings. His tall figure, as seen by us daily, looked much taller, so the height also increases, and appeared to be as light as a body seen in a dream. So, very light, what we see in a dream, without weight. Getting brighter, the slightly dark color of his body turned into a fair complexion. Due to that austerities and other things, that there was some darkness on the body, but that went away. Brightened by the divine mood and lit up by an incomparable smile playing on his slightly parted lips. His face beamed with glory, peace, bliss, and compassion. All four feelings were seen on his face. Glory, like a Lord. Peace, absolutely. Bliss and compassion. And spread a wonderful light which illumined all sides. So actual physical light came out. Bewitched as it were by the sight, the vast congregation forgot all other things and followed him almost unknowingly. The bright ochre color of the silk he put on became one with the luster of his body. So, silken ochre light. And he was mistaken for a person surrounded by flames of fire. That is what it appeared. In an inkling, in a twinkling, the zeal and joy of the Kirtan party on seeing the master, now it increased the zeal. As soon as the master came out of Mani Babu's temple and reached the public road, the Kirtan party saw his divinely bright beauty, charming dance and repeated deep ecstasy, and with their zeal worked up to a pitch, began singing. What they singing? सुरधुनीर तीरे हरि बोले करे बुझी प्रेमदाता नीता ये सच्चे ओरे हरि बोले करे जय राधे बोले करे बुझी प्रेमदाता नीता ये सच्चे আমাদের প্রেমদাতা নিতাই এসেছে নিতাই নহেলে প্রাণ জুড়াবে কিসে এই আমাদের প্রেমদাতা নিতাই এসেছে Who takes the name of Hari on the bank of Ganga, the river divine? It seems Nitai, the bestower of the divine love, has come. Who takes the name of Hari and sings victory to Radha? It seems Nitai, the bestower of the divine love, has come. This is the song. But now they are adding, our Nitai, the giver of love, has come. How can our hearts be soothed without him? Here comes our Nitai, the bestower of love, pointing out to Thakur there, adding this, our Nitai, our Nitai. All were attracted towards him. When they were singing the last line, they pointed their fingers at the master and danced with great delight, repeating it over and over again. Here is our bestower of love. That zeal of theirs attracted the attention of all who came to the festival. And they began to pour in there. Those who came and saw the master were at once charmed and joined the kirtan in great enthusiasm, or amazed at the rise of the indescribable divine feeling in their hearts, remained rooted to the ground for some time, and then followed the master silently, looking at him with unwinking eyes. As they joined the kirtan, stood motionless, and then without winking their eye, they followed the master. The zeal of the people gradually seized all the people round, and a few other kirtan parties came and joined the one mentioned before. Thus a vast congregation of people surrounded the master in ecstasy and proceeded with slow steps toward the cottage of Pandit Raghav. A plate full of prasad. The women devotees had a few platefuls of sweets offered to Sri Gauranga and Nityananda under the peepal tree on the Ganga and were bringing them for the master. It is called Malsabu, a cup-like, plate-like. A little before they arrived at the house of Pandit Raghava, an ugly, ill-formed Vaishnava in the garb of a religious mendicant, but he was in that garb only, came, nobody knew whence, snatched a plateful of prasada from the hands of a home devotee, and as if swelling with love and spiritual feelings, put a little of it into the mouth of the master with his own hand. So another hypocrisy here, and master is a barometer. In all that he is not lost in emotion. The master had then been standing still under the influence of the ecstatic mood, As soon as the man touched him, the whole of his body winced and this disturbed his ecstasy. He spat out the food, though it was a prasad, and washed his mouth. It did not take anybody long to know that that Vaishnava was a hypocrite. Seeing that all were casting glances of annoyance and ridicule, the fellow slipped off. The master then took prasad from one of the devotees, ate a particle of it himself, and gave the rest to them. The master returned to the boat and bestowed his grace on Navachaitanya. It took a long time, about 3 hours, to walk a distance of 1 mile and reach Pandit Raghava's house. The master took half an hour to go to the temple and touch the shaligrama and pay his ovations to the images and take rest. The vast crowd of people that came with him dispersed in various directions when he took rest. The devotees brought him to the boat when they saw that the crowd had thinned. But here also there came to pass a wonderful event. Knowing that the master had come to the festival, Nava Chaitanya Mitra of Konnagar became eager to see him and was searching everywhere for him. Now that he saw the master was in the boat and that the boat was about to start, he came running like one mad. He fell at his feet and wept on account of the intensity of the feelings of his heart, praying, "Please bestow grace on me." The master saw his eagerness and devotion and touched him in a divine mood. We do not know what extraordinary vision he had as a result of that touch, but his importunate weeping was turned into infinite delight in the twinkling of an eye. He danced unrestrainedly in the boat as if he had lost consciousness of the world. He sang the master's glory in various hymns and bowed down to him over and over again. When some time had elapsed this way, the master passed his hand over Navachaitanya's back and soothed him by giving him various instructions. Although Navachaitanya had seen the master many times before, he could not receive his grace earlier. He was blessed to receive it that day. He then placed his son in charge of his life totally changed. He then placed his son in charge of his worldly affairs, lived in a cottage in his own village on the Ganga like a vanaprasthin, and spent the rest of his life in spiritual practices and in singing hymns glorifying the name of the master. So the life totally transformed by touch. The aged Navachaitanya used to have ecstasy during Sankirtan from now on, and many loved and respected him on seeing his devotion and blissful figure. He was thus able, by the grace of the Master, to awaken the love of God in the hearts of many people during the last part of his life. Arrival at Dakshineshwar, the Master had a talk with a devotee who was going to take leave of him. When Navachaitanya bid goodbye, the master said that the boat might start. Scarcely had we gone a little distance when it was dusk and we came to the Kali temple at Dakshineshwar at about 8:30 p.m. Because it takes about 2 hours to come back. The master served us to 8:30. The master sat in his room and the devotees bowed to him and took his leave to return to Calcutta. All were getting into the boat when one of them, most probably Saradananda Swamiji himself, when one of them, a young man, remembered that he had forgotten his shoes and ran to the master's room to bring them. The master asked him the reason of his coming back and said jokingly, "Fortunately, I remembered it before the starting of the boat. Otherwise, the whole of today's joy would have been spoiled on account of this event." The young man smiled at these words, bowed down to him, and was ready to leave when the master asked him, "How did you enjoy the day? A fair of Hari's name assembled there, is that not so?" When the young man assented, the master mentioned the names of those of his devotees who had trances at the place of festival and eulogized Junior Naren, saying that black boy has been visiting this place for a short time and already he is having trance. The other day, his trance would not come to an end. He was devoid of normal consciousness for more than an hour. He says, my mind merges in the formless aspect of God nowadays. Merges in the formless aspect of God by singing the name of Hari. Junior Naren is a good boy. Is that not so? Please go to his house someday and have a talk with him. So with all this ecstasy, this and this and this, his spiritual intelligence is shining. Will you? That means asking response to see that the order, the instructions are carried out. The young man assented to all his words and said, but sir, I will go, but I like no one as much as I do Senior Naren. That also Master had made that friendship. I therefore do not feel inclined to go to Junior Naren's house. The master scolded him for saying so and said, you brat are so one-sided. So this one-sidedness was an abuse in master's words. It is the mean people that become one-sided. The Divine Lord has a flower basket containing various kinds of flowers. He has got various kinds of devotees. It is a sign of a low mind not to be able to mix with all and enjoy bliss. Go you must on one occasion to Junior Naren. What do you say? Will you? Having no alternative left, he bowed his assent and bade goodbye to him. This young man, it was afterwards known, went in a few days to have a conversation with Junior Naren according to the master's advice and felt blessed in having the solution of what he said was a very complicated problem of his life. So something got solved by Junior Naren, though he was loving Senior Naren. And that master, he came back for shoes and their master instructed him thus. He resisted, master again forced, then he went and this thing happened. So everything is a very different level. The boat reached Calcutta that night about 10 p.m. While he was taking his meal at night, the master spoke with the woman devotee about the Holy Mother. The woman devotee stayed with the Holy Mother that night, knowing that there would be great pomp at the Kali temple on the Snan Yatra day. The Purnima is Snan Yatra, and on that the temple was inaugurated. So there will be great festival. The anniversary of the installation of the Devi, they decided to return to Calcutta after witnessing that festival. While taking his meal at night, the master said to one of them in the course of a talk about the Paniyati festival, so great was the crowd. Besides, all were observing me on account of my ecstasy. She, the Holy Mother, did well in not accompanying us. Had people seen her with me, they would have said, the Hamsi and the Hamsa have come. He was known as Paramahamsa. So, his wife is a Hamsi. And then all that respect and that would have become diluted to any extent. Because the man and woman in company is looked at with different eyes. She is very intelligent. In order to give another example of the extraordinary intelligence of the Holy Mother, he continued to say, when the Marwadi devotee, Lakshminarayan, wanted to make a gift of 10,000 rupees to me, 10,000 in 1880s, how much it would be? Incalculable, more than 10 lakhs, more than crore. to Thakur personally. I felt as if my head was sawn through. I said to mother, "Hast thou come to tempt me again, even as late as now?" That means after maturing fully. Mother, in order to test her mind, I had her called to me at that time and said to her, "Look here, he wants to give that sum. Since I cannot accept it, he wants to transfer it to your name. You may accept it. What do you say?" As soon as she heard this, she said, "How can I accept it? The money can never be accepted. If I accept it, it will be the same thing as you are accepting it." So this pseudo possession is practiced in many places. For if I keep it with me, I cannot but spend it on your service and other necessities. So it comes to the same thing, namely your acceptance. People love and respect you for your renunciation. Now this is a women's talk. People respect. You are embodiment of renunciation. The money therefore can by no means be accepted. I heaved a sigh of relief. That is the answer he wanted. So, but he tested her like that. And he says she is very intelligent. On this occasion, by not coming, the Holy Mother talked with the said devotee about that. When the master had taken his meal, the woman devotee went to the Holy Mother at the Nahabat and told her what the master had said about her. She said, "I could understand from the very way in which he sent me word in the morning regarding my going to Panyati, that he did not heartily approve it. He would have otherwise said, yes, certainly she may go. When he placed on me the responsibility of making the decision on the matter and said, let her come if she likes, I decided it was advisable to give up the idea of going." So that is how the light indirect talk and the understanding of that indirect talk. The master's mood was disturbed on account of the contact of many people on this Nanyatra day, and he was annoyed. The master had no sleep that night on account of the burning sensation in his body because so many people had touched him, and any impure man touching him produces this burning sensation. It happened perhaps because people of various kinds of character had touched his divine person during the festival. For when impure men of polluted minds touched his person and took the dust of his feet for the purpose of becoming free from diseases or with some other motive, he, it was observed, very often suffered from that burning sensation. The festival of Snanyatra took place on the day following the Panyati festival. We could not be present at Dakshineshwar on that occasion. Many men and women, we were told by the women devotees, came to see the master that day. One of them, called A's mother, pressed him to help settle her property and thereby damp his bliss. Seeing her sitting beside him at the time of his midday meal, he was annoyed and did not speak, nor could he take the food on that occasion as usual. Afterwards, another woman devotee, an acquaintance of ours, there is Yogidma, went to pour water into his hand for a wash. He said to her privately, "People come here with a view to having divine love and devotion. She wants the settlement of her property to be made here. Look at that. The woman has brought mangoes and sweets with a selfish motive in her mind. I could not put even a bit of them into my mouth. Today is the date of Snanyatra. Ah, how much of ecstasy I used to have on this day in other years. The inebriation produced by that ecstasy used to continue for 2 or 3 days. I could have nothing at all today. High moods could not come on account of the atmosphere here and the coming in contact with people of various states of mind. As his mother stayed that night at Dakshineshwar, the master's annoyance did not abate even at night. He said to a woman devotee at the time of taking his night meal, "Too much crowding of women here is not good. Trailokya, the son of Mathurbahu, is here. How will he take it? It is one thing if one or two women come here now and then and stay here a day or so, but it is quite a different thing if a crowd is here. I cannot put up with such a rush of women." Thinking that they were the cause of the master's annoyance, the women devotees became much dejected on that occasion and returned to Calcutta as soon as it was morning. There was great pomp on the occasion of Snan Yatra in the Kali temple on account of worship Yatra. Yatra means a religious village drama. A drama, an open theatre religious drama with no screens or this or that. That is called Yatra. Yatra is not pilgrimage. Huh? This is the Bengali word. Pomp on the occasion of Snan Yatra in the Kali temple. Snan Yatra is Jagannath Dev is taken to bath in Puri. That is Snan Yatra. Moving from here to there. And this Yatra means a religious drama. This is not moving anywhere. Worship, Yatra, etc. But the devotees could not feel any joy that day for the above reason. The reader will understand to a certain extent how keenly mindful the master was of each daily affair and how he controlled and guided the devotees for their good, in spite of the fact that he constantly lived in high planes of consciousness. So it is not emotion. High planes of consciousness is not emotion. He is very practical in the spiritual molding of the life of his disciples. So we have come to the end of the Paniyati festival and we move on to 11th chapter. And the heading is Master moved to Calcutta. The disease increases now obviously. And he had to, why it is said moved to Calcutta? Because he was taken to a house in Shambhala and he could not stay there. He went away to Balaram's house. So the general heading is given moved to Calcutta. Because Shambhadar and then Bhagwadar. His visit to Paniyati increased the pain in the throat. The behavior of the childlike master would put blame on Rambabu. So all this is what is called Leela. Knowingly is undertaking this. The pain in the throat of the master increased after his taking part in the Paniyati festival. There had been showers of rain from time to time that day. So it was not described during the going from this temple to that temple. Now he is telling that. Showers of rain from time to time that day. The doctors expostulated with the devotees that the disease had increased because he had spent a long time with his body and feet exposed to the rains. They were not covering by umbrellas or anything. Feet also and body also. They said that it would be a serious matter if such irregularity happened again. Consequently, the devotees were determined to be careful thereafter. The boyish master put the whole blame for the escapade of that day. Escapade means going out of rules. Atyachar. Atyachar has been explained as escapade. Escapade of that day on the shoulders of Ramchandra Datta and a few other elderly devotees and said, "Could I have gone to Paniyati if they had forbidden me a little more emphatically?" Although he was not a professional doctor, Rambabu had studied in the Campbell Medical School and taken a diploma in medicine. As he was a lover of the Vaishnava truth faith, he had rather encouraged the master to go to Paniyati. He was therefore regarded as deserving the greater part of the blame on that account. One day, a friend of ours came to Dakshineshwar at that time and found the master sitting quietly on a small bedstead with an unguent on his throat. He said, I saw in the master's face the exact picture of that gloomy expression when a boy bears, when he is prevented by way of punishment from doing something and is kept confined in one place. So that like master's face appeared. I saluted him and asked what the matter was. He showed me the plaster on his throat and said, just see, the pain has increased and the doctor has forbidden me to speak much. So speaking and ecstasy. Ah, sir, said I. You, I am told, went to Paniyati the other day. This is perhaps why the pain has increased. So that boy has not gone. He said like a boy with a wounded feeling of love. Yes, just see, there was water above, water below, rain in the sky, and mud on the roads. And Ram took me there and made me dance the whole day before we returned. He has passed an examination and is a doctor. Would I have gone there if he had forbidden strongly? I said, yes, sir. Ram is quite wrong. Anyway, what is done is done. Please be careful for a few days and it will be cured. He was pleased to be told so and said, can one, however, do without speaking at all? Just see what a great distance you have come from, and I should not speak a word with you. Is it possible? I said, I am full of joy even to see you. You need not speak to me. I shall not feel worried. When you are cured, we shall hear many things from you again. But he did not lend an ear to these words of mine. He forgot the doctor's prohibition, his own suffering, and all other things and began talking with me as before. So this talking and ecstasy he could not avoid. In spite of the sore in his throat and the prohibition of the doctor, the master now taught as before, whoever came to him. So that is the very mission of his life. Suppose he does not talk and enters ecstasy. What is his mission then? The month of Ashad passed. Now this is a solar idea. Oh, but that gesture was there now Ashad. This is June to July is Ashad. Middle June to middle July. So suddenly this Indian word has come to the English reading people. It is June, July. For more than a month he had been undergoing treatment and the pain did not show any sign of abatement after the Paniyati. Though he felt it less at other times, the pain increased during the full moon and the new moon days. This is with many such diseases. Even the allopathic doctors know this. Purnima, Amavasya and such days. And the 11 days of both the fortnights of the lunar month, Ekadashis. It was absolutely impossible for him at that time to swallow any kind of solid food or vegetable. The master therefore took on those days milk with a little rice or coarse flour of wheat, suji, what we call. Boiled in milk only. Doctors examined him and diagnosed that he had contracted the clergyman's throat. The clergymen, that means the Christian fathers, they go on talking much, and so that disease is called clergyman's throat, sore throat. That is, his organ of speech had been too much exercised in giving religious instruction to people day and night, and his throat was about to develop a sore. It is recorded in medical books that the clergy generally contract the disease. Doctors prescribed medicine, diet, etc. after diagnosing the disease. Although the master completely followed most of the prescription, it was violated in respect of 2 points. Unable to control himself on account of his deep love of God and infinite compassion for the people parched by the heat of worldly misery, he could not avoid entering into ecstasy, nor could he cease talking to them. And these were the two causes of aggravation. As soon as there arose a talk about God, he now, as before, lost the consciousness of his body and entered into ecstasy. And when people, blinded by the darkness of ignorance and overwhelmed with grief and sorrow, came to him in search of the right path, eagerly hankering after peace, he would lose himself in compassion for them and would instruct and bless them. So we'll proceed. Too much labor in giving religious instruction to too many people and sleeplessness due to the Mahabhav were the causes of the disease. We can take it up next time. Om Sarvadharmastapakastvam Sarvadharmaswarupakah Acharyanam Mahacharyo Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.